Right, yeah. This is a PayPal from Lindsay. We did what was it, E-Talk, which was yeah. I'm guessing they're from like yeah, the same time. But this is CBC. Yeah, CBC interview. But yeah, Katie Lang knows she's not an ordinary music star. Yeah. Yeah, she isn't really. She should be. In fact, she's probably more the ordinary than some of the people that are famous music stars, but she's probably more your authentic musician type than a lot of people. But anyway, yeah, let's go.
Here we are in Edmonton. You're about to be inducted in the Canadian Country Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
Did you see that coming?
never. I never did actually. I didn't even think about it. But obviously, I'm thinking about it a lot in the last few weeks. And my hotel room overlooks the north, which I see the hospital I was born. So Edmonton is such a part of who I am. It's in my blood, and just to be coming back here for this occasion is it's it's very rich, very very rich.
And the embrace, I would assume this says about the country music industry, the community of you.
Well, yeah, I didn't really experience that before, but now I'll take it. No, I think I did. I certainly experienced it in Edmonton, but in country music in general, maybe not. But I knew what I was getting into.
So we were born the same year. So as you launched your career kind of nationally and publicly, I was sitting there in front of my TV watching you. And I can think back to those days and how amazed I was, certainly of your talent, like your voice is so beautiful, but also your exuberance, how unique you were, your enthusiasm. Like you were in your early 20s, like where did all that come from?
Well, I've been thinking about this too.
We got to do more of her stuff like that. We've done a lot of very like a lot of Patsy Cline things, and I think probably the majority we've done has been a bit more like the softer side. But we got to do some of her like that was basically like rock and roll, really.
In the last few days and weeks. I came from a classical background, but then, in my late teens, early 20s, I was actually a performance artist with a group here in Edmonton. So we really incorporated, conceptual art and yeah, found objects, and we were just doing a lot of different things. So when I shifted into country music, I brought all that with me. And I think that that's what made me different, is that I never really saw the need to hone down into something that already existed. I just kind of allowed myself to bring all the tools that I had as an artist into country music. And I think what's fascinating about looking back at what I did is that I really brought all of the aspects of who I was into country music. Like I really did grow up in the prairies. I really did grow up helping my friend do the chores. I really did see chickens get their heads cut off. I really did drive around in trucks and drink Kahlua and milk and listen to country music. That is my history. But that's not where it ends. I studied classical music. I had a lot of variations as well. Like I said, I was a performance artist, so that's quite skewing quite to the left. So I just find it interesting, and I would love to promote using your own cultural history to make you who you are as an artist. I think it's essential.
Yeah, because when I think about like American country music in particular, it's like all these videos. You can almost play a bingo game with pickup truck, dog, you know, reference to
Whiskey.
Yeah, whiskey.
Yeah.
Just like all these things and heterosexual relations and relationships, like it's all there. So here you are growing up in a traditional country environment on the one hand, like the farm and the, you know, drinking and all that sort of stuff, but kind of untraditional in other ways. And I guess now looking back at it from 2024, like the country music industry has said you can be a Hall of Famer and be like that. But 30 years ago, maybe a little bit of discomfort about all that.
Yeah, there was, I mean, certainly my sexuality was challenging. But it was also intriguing. I mean, that it's sort of, it was a double-edged sword. It's what people love. It's like watching an accident, you know. I think people were fascinated by it, and but also kind of off-put. Like they, you know, it was kind of always arm's length. Certainly when I got to the States, it was arm's length. They knew that I generated younger viewers, but they also knew that they didn't really want me in their inner political circle, and I certainly didn't want to be there.
31 years ago, I think 32 years ago, you came out publicly, and then there was the Vanity Fair cover with Cindy Crawford, back when magazines really mattered, right? And that was a really big moment for a lot of people. What was that time in your life like for you?
Well, it was a very, very profound period because the AIDS crisis was in full-on raging mode, and a lot of people were dying. So it was real. It was threatening, and homophobia was very prevalent. And my stardom was on the rise, but I felt a real sense of urgency to come out and take responsibility and to change the narrative of being outed on one hand, or being outed on either the far left or the far right, you know, just like owning it and saying, yes, I'm gay, and you know, just starting a conversation and a realistic acknowledgement that that the culture exists and it's normal, and because homophobia was raging.
And just before that, you had taken a stand. You were part of the Meat Stinks campaign.
Meat stinks, and not just for the animals, but for human health and the environment.
And I mean, I get the sense, I was looking back at some of the old coverage, that might have had a bigger impact on your fan base and your hometown than coming out.
It did, yeah, it did.
We were proud of the young lady at one time, and she's killed that pride.
She's like family. We loved her. We were so proud of her. We've got her name down below the hill, and now we're ashamed to have her name there.
And you know, obviously I'm still a vegetarian, and I'm a Buddhist, but I think my approach would have been a little different with Meat Stinks now. I think, you know, obviously I like to raise the idea of consciousness and mindfulness in terms of what we consume and how we consume it. But I wasn't a fan of the text that I was given to read on the onset of that ad. But I still stand by the idea of having an honest conversation with yourself about what you consume.
And again, like I said, here you are about to be a Hall of Famer by the, you know, and so the industry has kind of embraced you,
Yeah,
right?
well, Nixon got a stamp. I mean, let's be honest.
I just want to play this video clip for you and just kind of get your reaction to it.
When Katie Lang's mom hears that song, it gives her a special feeling.
Aw.
It reminds her how far her little girl has come. Audrey Lang came up with the $2,000 Katie needed to cut her first
500,
record.
not 2,000.
She now calls
500.
it her best investment. It was her daughter's duet with Roy Orbison that brought her a Grammy Award in Los Angeles a few weeks ago. Katie Lang was the only Canadian to win, and Audrey was watching back home in consort.
Sometimes I'm
That's
watching
not
her
fair.
on TV.
You're like, you're
reading
not
about
Connie
her in
Chunging me right
a
now.
magazine, and I think, Is it really Kathy? Is that my little baby?
KD is Kathy to her mom.
Okay, do I have
and
to keep
together
watching?
they're
A little
headed
bit
to the
more.
Juno
Is
Awards.
that okay?
Yeah.
It's going to be Audrey's first trip to Toronto and her first trip to the Junos. She's very nervous.
It will probably be just like when she was in a music festival when she was 7, 8, 9 years old. It can be the most nerve-wracking experience of a mother's life, sitting there with your fists clenched.
The piano that got Kathy through those music festivals
Kathy?
now
Who gives
holds
you the
some
right
of
to
her
call me
greatest
Kathy?
achievements. The first Juno Award.
Do I look like a
and
Kathy?
last year's
Can we
Entertainer of
just
the Year.
address that right now?
Katie Lang has brought
A
pride
little
to
bit.
Consort, Alberta. Canada's top country music singer has made this little prairie town pretty famous.
Yep.
So tell me about your mom, the impact she had on you.
God, she's everything. She was everything. You know, I mean, I've told this story a million times. She taught school, and and my older siblings are 11 and 12 years older than me, so from the time they were 5 and 6 to the time I was 5 and 6, she drove every week an hour one way after school for us all to study classical piano for hours. Like every lesson is half an hour, and there was like 4 or 5 kids, then drove all the way back. She was adamant that we had a musical education. My dad was a really good singer, but my mom was the one that was like, you need a musical education. She knew that music and the arts are key to good education.
Okay, why don't I give you a second to wipe your eyes there?
I'm not
You're
crying,
not crying,
I'm
no,
just
but it's
tearing.
no, I know. It's just there. Okay, great.
No, you don't get this back.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Let's talk about music for a moment, and we're going to play for our audience a montage of some of your musical highlights. So imagine a world where we've just played probably a little bit of crying. Constant craving, maybe a little bit of your duet with Tony in your career, like musical highlights, Grammy wins, you know, from pop vocalist to country vocalist. It really shows your range. What would you put among the highlights of your career?
You know, when I think about my career, I don't think about like a very traditional trajectory. I think for me it was all about performance. Like, yeah, Constant Craving was the only song that got played on the radio, really. Crying maybe a little bit, but no, Crying did quite well. But I wasn't a music star really. I was a performance. I was a performer. Like I did a lot of television, like a lot of TV, and then kind of became a personality. I think more than anything. With the coming out and the meat stinks and then the performances. It's more like, I'm not an ordinary music star.
Well, it goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major left, a baffled king composed.
The thing is, though, is that like most of what people deem to be best are not always the biggest. Because to me, I think someone like Randy Newman is up there with the greatest songwriters. No one knows his songs other than the Toy Story song and some of the ones Tom Jones covered. But I think there is she is that real artist. Like, yeah, like success in like it's not everything because there's a certain amount of game that you have to play if you want to be successful and you want to be right and it doesn't matter how talented you are. If you don't play that game, you're never going to be promoted in the same way that everybody else is who is playing that game. So the less talented people can. But yeah, I think she's kind of a bit more. I think she she's more common of a musician than she gives herself credit for. Even someone like Bob Dylan. Now, I know Bob Dylan did have his day. He did have his moment. But let's be honest, after the 60s, the majority of the world completely forgot about Bob Dylan. People like Neil Young. Neil Young's never been. But these are like. No one would argue that these people are like. They are music. Do you know what I mean? Like, they are what music is. But yeah, I think she can definitely put. I also like that she said that she does performance art. Because that is something about her as well, that when you watch her perform, it is her. It's everything with her. Like, she's being funny, she's being like goofy, and but then she's just also got this amazing voice. Like, yeah. But yeah, let's carry on.
You know, it just occurred to me that there was a time when people thought of you as a throwback, you know, your connection, spiritual, musical connection to Patsy Cline or, you know, Loretta Lynn. Like, but now I kind of think you were maybe born at the wrong time. Like, given your,
I agree.
yeah, with like your politics, if you want to call it that, but all your independence, your love of performance, like you were made for Instagram.
Yeah, and the Sapphic Summer. I mean, where
don't
was I
agree.
for the Sapphic Summer? I missed the whole damn thing. Yeah, I feel like I'm actually in a couple different eras. Like, I feel like as a singer, I'm in the 40s. I should have lived in the 40s. But culturally, yeah, I should be young now. But I kind of like being the elder and having, you know, I came out, 30 years ago, and I did Meat Stinks, talked about veganism 35 years ago. So I kind of like, you know, kind of like sitting back and going, yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Things are evolving slowly.
One of the stories that involves you that I love is the connection to the Rolling Stones. And I love Constant Craving, but I also love Has Anybody Seen My Baby? And so, as I understand it, the Stones did that song, played it, and then realized, uh-oh, this sounds just like Constant Craving, and added you and your co-writer, Ben Mink,
yeah.
as co-writer. How did you find out that you had co-written a song with the Stones?
I was called by my management saying, the Rolling Stones want to give you 25% of their new single. It sounds just like Constant Craving. And I was like, oh, really? And then I listened to it, and I mean, even the guitar lick is the same. So.
She should have took them for 100. Not to get, because obviously she's gonna be, but they would have. They would have took her for everything if they noticed. Yeah, they sued Oasis. They sued Oasis, and then Oasis put Street Fighting Man on a B-side of a single, because Noel learned that if you play it exactly as the original, you don't have to pay. But yeah.
So do you get,
I get it still royalties. I
was
have
gonna ask that.
no idea what
you don't
the
get
number.
a check that has like the logo of the Rolling Stones on it?
I maybe do, but I stay far away
Okay.
from the business world.
So I'm a Stones fan, and when I play that song, you know, like on a playlist, and I see your name on the credits, it kind of gives me a bit of a thrill. Like, do you do that? Do you like look at the record or?
I never have,
No?
but maybe I will if
Yeah.
it gives me a thrill.
I
Why
mean,
not?
it's pretty cool,
Yeah,
right? You know,
right.
Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, Ben
Katie-
Mink, Katie
Katie
Lang,
Lang,
like
yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to read a list of names of musicians. Just, you can give me a sentence or two or whatever comes to mind when you hear these names. So let me, yeah, no, that's just, it actually has to do with your musical highlights. All right, all set?
Yes.
So it's like 7 or 8 names. Loretta Lynn.
Oh my God. Kindred spirit, soul sister, hilarious. Brought bologna, literally brought a thing, like a log of bologna, a loaf of white bread, and a mustard, squeezable mustard thing to this recording session.
Tony Bennett.
Oh. Teacher, friend, mentor, gentleman, pro, Renaissance guy, super liberal, just a friend.
Wow. Anne Murray.
Oh, my crush. I always had a Jones for Anne Murray since I was like 8, 7, something like that. And really, you know, the early Anne, the barefoot Anne, the rugby shirt wearing Anne, the beer drinking Anne, that was an indelible imprint on me for sure.
Roy Orbison.
My spiritual mentor, his voice, sharing the mic with him, sharing a dressing room with him. We never ever really talked. We just sat there, and then we would share a mic, and it would be mighty and immense and surreal. Just power and stillness and silence. It's just like a wide spectrum.
Joni Mitchell.
Oh, untouchable. God of goddesses. I have made a pact to not talk about Joni Mitchell or to do tributes or try not to involve myself with Joni Mitchell because there's nobody better than Joni Mitchell.
David Crosby.
So 9/11, the anniversary was the other day. I was in Denver, and so was Crosby, Stills and Nash. And you know, the towers went down, and we were all airplanes. And I had to get back. I was taking refuge with my Buddhist teacher, and I really wanted to make that date. And I was in Denver, and my Lama was in Los Angeles. And David Crosby offered me a ride on his bus to get to LA. And it was so generous. But I was worried that people were going to think I was going to end up pregnant because he impregnates lesbians.
But that never happened.
Thanks for laughing. I appreciate that. They didn't know. I did not get pregnant.
Okay.
No, he stayed in the front and did his thing, and I kind of went in the back room and kind of slept.
This video could have gone viral if the answer had been yes there, eh?
Oh, totally. Well, should we? I mean, we all love viral.
As we do this interview, it's the eve of your reunion on stage with the Reclines, the first time since 1989. How's that feeling?
Amazing. When I first was mulling over actually performing, I called Ben right away. I texted Ben right away, and I said, "What do you think? Would you be into getting the Reclines back together?" And he was like, "Oh my God, yes." And so Johnny Diamond was already going to be here, and Gordy Matthews lives in Edmonton, so that it was so easy, and everybody. We met in Toronto.
Why is
to do
everyone
the
called
rehearsal,
Gordy
and
in Canada?
literally, it was like riding a bicycle. I mean, it was so ingrained in our DNA and our memory that it was so like it just eradicated time. Wow. The passage of time. We were all. We're all grayer, and you know how it is. But
I know how it is.
It's phenomenal. The energy and the love and the excitement around performing is phenomenal.
And so you describe yourself now as retired, but when you light up the way that you just did when you talk about this performance, does it make you rethink retirement at all?
Well, retirement from the slog of make a record, put it out, tour, do the press junket, but I mean, random acts of artistic gesture, yeah, I'm all in.
So what do you think? Have you figured out what's next for you? From the artistic standpoint?
No, I haven't. I'm not in a rush. I don't even know if I will end up doing anything. Mm-hmm. But like an opportunity like singing with the Reclines in Edmonton for the Country Music Awards, it's kind of like what it feels like when I was asked to sing Hallelujah in Vancouver for the Olympics. I mean, it's like a golden egg being placed in your hand. It's like, oh, I wouldn't even think twice about this opportunity.
It has been a delight to finally get a chance to sit down and talk to you as somebody who has watched you admiringly for like probably 30 years. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It is right back at you. I feel the same way about you.
It's crazy she's not going to perform, but then I suppose, like she said, it becomes so much more than just doing an album. It is, like she said, that slog of, yeah. But yeah. So when was the last? Was the Canadian Olympics the last performance from her? But yeah, yeah. We definitely got to do a lot more, because there was, even in that little short clip, I don't think I'd heard most of them. And we've done a fair bit of, like, I mean, we haven't done loads compared to other people, do you know what I mean? But yeah. The Roy Orbison thing, though, as well. It's kind of weird, because by the time I come along, Katie Lang was like, she is one of them names you just hear in music, like, or at least I did. She's just a name that you hear. If you like, you know, I've said all the time, if you're into music, there's just certain names that just come up if you're into music, whether you hear or listen to them or not, you know their name. So to kind of hear, it really seems like with the Roy Orbison thing, to me, like Katie Lang's voice is just as revered, if not more, than Roy Orbison's. Even though Roy Orbison is like, he is that voice that people say the most beautiful voice on a man. When that Elvis's quote about him, the most beautiful voice from a man. Um, but like I say, being younger than both, you hear both of their names. So it's kind of crazy to hear how she was so like um in awe. But then I suppose it works that way anyway. She's a lot younger, but do you know what I mean? It becomes a point with artists where you all just become part of the same fabric, really. But I'd say Katie Lang is definitely in there. Definitely, I grew up in a music household, but she was definitely a name that you just knew. Like, yeah, yeah. But yeah, also, like, see, I'd like to know more actually about her and like her. I'd like to ask her. I'd like to say, like, at what point, if you ever, did you realize that you was the greatest singer in the world? Because I don't actually think she has that opinion of herself, which is crazy to me. Like, I just think she just thinks of like, yeah, I'm a performance artist, and yeah, like I can sing, but it's like you don't. It's not just singing. Like, yeah, yeah. I disagree with that mate. You know about the Instagram when he said you was born in the wrong time. I really thought, because I agree with that. She belongs back with the Patsy Clines of the world in that era. But then I am thinking vocally, to be fair. I am really like thinking vocally for that. But when he said you should be on Instagram, it's like, don't just like, that's like, like Superman deciding that he's not going to fly and get the bus everywhere. If you got a voice like that and you can write and you can perform and you are that good, why would you become an Instagram influencer? I don't know. I didn't get that when he said that. You belong on Instagram. I was thinking that sentence should have never ever gone in next to KD Lang's name. You belong on Instagram. Belong on Instagram. Let's be honest. Nobody belongs on Instagram. Nobody. But yeah. Anyway, that was a bit of an odd one. That's when he said, "Oh yeah, you was born in the wrong time." Yeah, I was thinking like I think she was more thinking that she's like she belongs back in the day. Like she would have had. I think there was much more of an appreciation back in the day for her. 'Cause people just don't appreciate shit nowadays. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. I'd actually like to. Yeah, because there's so many things when I watch these interviewers interviewing people, and I think that's not what I would ask. But then I'm thinking purely from a like musical point. Like I'd like to know how she felt in different situations and what was going through her mind when this happened and what was going through her mind when that happened. And yeah, yeah. And it's crazy to me as well that that Vanity Fair. It kind of annoys me that they bring that up. That you've got someone that's so talented, and one of the first things you want to talk about is her doing some shitty modeling magazine cover. It's like, who cares? It's like, do you know who you are talking to? Who you have that moment to ask someone so talented and probably the highest level of what you could be in terms of singing. And both interviews they want to talk about this, and it's like now I guess maybe back then it was a real big thing, but it's like to me that's the equivalent of getting John Lennon on your getting a John Lennon interview and saying so where did you get the style for them hairs cuts that you lot had? You got John Lennon and you want to know about some shitty style fashion bullshit that no one cares about. You got yeah. But then that's not my world. The whole fashion thing and all that. It just I'm music person. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm speaking solely from a music. I suppose people do care about like fashion and shit, but yeah, but yeah, that's the reaction. Sweet.